Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a subject that, well, it affects everyone, but needs a really specific look when we think about neurodiversity. We're talking self care for autistic individuals.
Yeah, and our main source here is Noah Renolds' book, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Care for Autistic People.
Right. And what I found really striking from the start is this core idea.
The idea that it's not about fitting into neurotypical boxes.
Exactly. It argues that autistic self care isn't about you doing what everyone else says self care is, it's about changing your world, your environment to fit you.
Which is a pretty radical shift, actually, bending the world to you, not the other way around. It reframes self-care as, well, almost a form of rebellion. Or maybe self-advocacy is a better word.
Self-advocacy, yeah.
Right.
So, okay, if it's different, where does that difference really start? What's the foundation?
Well, it really begins with understanding how sensory experiences are often processed differently. The book talks a lot about hypersensitivity and hypersensitivity.
Hyper and hypo. So, hypersensitivity is when things are just too much.
Exactly. Like the book uses the example of a supermarket. The lights, the noise, the smells, it can all just be incredibly overwhelming sensory overload.
Okay.
And then hyposensitivity is kind of the opposite. It's needing more sensory input to feel regulated. So someone might spin or seek out strong textures, that kind of thing.
Right. Seeking out sensation rather than being overwhelmed by it. It really shows how subjective it all is.
Totally. What's calming for one person could be absolute chaos for another.
So, the book says step one is figuring out your own sensory profile. That's the bedrock.
Absolutely. You need to understand your unique sensory landscape first.
How does someone listening even begin to do that? Where do you start?
Reynolds suggests becoming a bit of a detective about your own life. Start noticing what feels good, what feels bad, what environments drain you or, surprisingly, energize you.
So, active observation.
Yeah, and experimenting. Try small things, noise canceling headphones maybe, dimmer lights, fidget tools. See what actually works for you.
The book also mentions journaling, right? Tracking things over time.
Definitely. Journaling can help you spot patterns. What triggers discomfort, what genuinely brings calm. It's about gathering that personal data.
So, maybe for you listening, take a second. What sensations really stand out in your day? What places or sounds tend to either overwhelm you or maybe soothe you? It's worth thinking about.
And once you have a better handle on that sensory profile, the next logical step the book discusses is your home environment.
Making home a sanctuary. That feels really key.
It really is. For many autistic people, home needs to be that predictable, safe space, a place to properly decompress from a world that, let's face it, isn't always built for neurodivergent needs.
And it's not just about quiet, is it? The book breaks it down.
No, it's multisensory.
Yeah.
Think about light, harsh fluorescence versus, say, natural light or lamps with dimmer switches. Big difference.
Yeah, dimmers are great. And sound, obviously. Quiet zones, maybe soundproofing if needed.
Right. But also textures, the feel of your sofa, your bedding, your clothes, avoiding things that are just irritating.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
And organization, clutter.
Yeah, visual clutter can definitely add to sensory overload for some people. So keeping things relatively organized can help. Even colors. Some prefer muted tones. Others might like specific stimulating colors in certain areas.
The book even suggests creating like sensory nooks.
Exactly. Little dedicated spots, maybe with specific comfy textures, weighted blankets, soft lighting. Just a small corner that's designed purely for sensory comfort.
It's all about making your home genuinely supportive, a place you can just be.
Mm-hmm. Allowing you to be your authentic self without constantly fighting your environment.
Okay, so home is sorted, ideally, but we can't always be home. What about managing things out there? The book talks about portable tools.
Yes, portable tools for on-the-go regulation. The idea is to have discrete, practical things you can carry with you.
To manage sensory input when you're out and about.
Right, so you feel more empowered, less at the mercy of the environment. Think noise-canceling headphones or even just earplugs. Huge help for auditory overload.
Fidget tools too, right? For
Yeah.
sensory input or just managing anxiety.
Yeah, definitely. They provide that outlet. The book also mentions things like weighted lap pads, which can be quite portable, or even compression clothing for that calming deep pressure.
What else? Aromatherapy.
Yeah, small roll-ons with calming scents can work, though. As the book points out, you need to be mindful in public spaces. Maybe not great on a crowded bus.
Good point. What about simpler things?
Even just the smooth stone, a piece of textured fabric in your pocket, something tactile to focus on. And don't forget apps on your phone, breathing exercises, quick meditations, things you can access anywhere.
It's like having a little self-care toolkit with you.
Pretty much. It gives you a sense of preparedness, a bit more control.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. This next one can be tough. Boundaries. The book really digs into the guilt factor, especially for autistic folks.
Oh, absolutely. Setting boundaries is vital, but that guilt can be intense, especially if you spent years trying to, just fit in or please others.
Why is it so crucial, though, in this context?
Because, as we've said, the world can be more draining. Sensory input, social demands, they deplete resources faster. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're essential energy management. The book calls it self respect. Your needs are valid, period.
And it gives practical tips, like actual scripts.
Yeah, which can be super helpful starting points. How to say no to a party without a long apologetic explanation. How to maybe join a family thing, but only for an hour or two.
Managing expectations.
Exactly. Or setting work boundaries, needing breaks, needing focused time, and even emotional boundaries in conversations, like saying you need a moment to process something.
It's about giving yourself permission.
Mhm. And having the words to do it helps reduce that initial awkwardness or guilt.
But what happens when people push back?
Yeah.
Because they sometimes do.
Yeah, the book acknowledges that's a real thing. Pushback happens.
So what's the advice there?
Key thing is, their pushback doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It usually reflects their feelings or expectations. So stay calm, stay firm. You can validate their feeling, I understand you're disappointed, without actually giving in.
Like that example.
Yeah.
I understand you want me there, but I need to take care of myself right now.
Exactly that. Acknowledging them, but holding your ground respectfully. It's a skill, takes practice.
Okay, let's talk about rest. Another fundamental. The book expands the definition of rest beyond just sleep, especially for autistic people.
Yes, hugely important. Rest isn't just about sleep, though that's vital too. It's also about recovery.
Recovery from what specifically?
Recovery from sensory overload, that feeling of being completely frazzled. Recovery from social interaction, which takes energy. Recovery from just, the mental effort of processing everything.
Social fatigue, yeah. I get that.
hmm And without enough of that kind of rest, you're heading towards overwhelm, anxiety, and yeah, burnout.
The book lists signs you might need rest, doesn't it? Things beyond just yawning.
It does. Like increased sensitivity to sounds or lights, feeling emotionally drained or irritable, finding it hard to concentrate, maybe stimming more than usual, physical tension, poor sleep, wanting to withdraw.
So listening to those broader signals from your body and mind?
Absolutely. And remembering that needing rest isn't failure, it's maintenance. It's an investment in actually being functional long term.
How do you create restful environments then, besides just being quiet?
Think sensory again. What lighting feels restful? What sounds or silence? What textures are calming? It's about intentionally designing rest spots or moments, building breaks into your day, even tiny ones, prioritizing sleep consistently.
Making rest non-negotiable.
That's the goal.
Okay, something else I liked was the take on physical activity. Not exercise, but joyful movement without pressure.
Yes, I love that framing. It takes the pressure off, doesn't it? It's not about hitting targets or burning calories, it's about how it feels.
Finding enjoyment in moving your body.
Exactly. The book suggests things like yoga, swimming, tai chi, walking in nature, activities where you can tune into the sensory experience, the feel of water, the ground under your feet, the rhythm of your breath.
And movement can be regulating too, right?
Yeah,
Depending on the type.
for sure. Gentle, rhythmic movement might soothe hypersensitivities. More dynamic stuff could help with hyposensitivity, getting that needed input. Proprioceptive activities, things that engage muscles and joints, like stretching or using resistance bands, can be very grounding.
So it's about finding what feels good and regulating for you, not forcing a specific workout.
Precisely. Small bits of enjoyable movement woven into your day.
Now let's touch on relationships.
Yeah.
Book talks about building connections without masking. That sounds liberating, but also maybe scary.
It can be both, yeah. Masking, suppressing your natural autistic traits to fit in is incredibly exhausting. The book is clear about the toll it takes. Confusion about your own identity, feeling disconnected even when you're with people.
Because you're not really there authentically.
Right. So the book champions the idea that authentic relationships are possible, and they're the only ones that are truly sustainable long term.
How do you find those people or build those connections?
It suggests actively seeking out people who seem to appreciate you as you are. Pay attention to how you feel around someone energized or drained, comfortable or constantly on edge.
trusting your gut feeling about people.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe taking small steps towards unmasking in relationships that feel safer, using your natural communication style a bit more, setting those boundaries we talked about.
And accepting that not everyone will get it.
Exactly. It's okay if some people don't understand or accept the real you. Focus your energy on those who do. Quality over quantity.
That ties into managing social energy generally, right?
Yeah,
Avoiding burnout from just too much peopling.
definitely. Everyone has a social battery, and for autistic people, it might drain faster or recharge slower. The book gives strategies for managing that.
Like planning social time carefully.
Yeah, being intentional, not overcommitting. Maybe limiting how long you stay at events, communicating your needs. I need some quiet time after this.
What are the signs you're heading for social burnout?
Similar to general burnout, but maybe more socially focused, withdrawing more, feeling extra irritable after social events, intense fatigue, less tolerance for noise or conversation, needing way longer alone time to recover.
And recovery methods.
Low stimulation activities are key. Quiet hobbies, time alone, nature, grounding techniques, whatever helps you reset your system after being on socially. Again, it's about honoring your needs, not society's expectations of constant socializing.
Okay, let's talk about something often really positive. Special interests. The book frames these as self-care tools.
Yes, this is such an important point. Special interests aren't just hobbies, they are often vital for well being.
How do they function as self-care?
They provide intense focus, satisfaction, and genuine joy. In a world that can feel chaotic, diving deep into a special interest offers a sense of predictability, control, and comfort.
Like a mental refuge.
Totally. That deep immersion can be incredibly soothing. It regulates emotions, calms anxiety, builds expertise and self esteem. It's a powerful way to recharge and feel grounded.
So embracing them fully without guilt.
Absolutely. Making time for them is making time for essential self care.
What about work? That's a huge part of life. How does the book suggest aligning work with sensory and emotional needs?
It acknowledges that traditional workplaces can be really challenging. The first step, again, is self awareness. What do you need sensorially and emotionally to function well at work?
And then advocating for those needs.
Yeah.
Requesting accommodations.
Yes. Things like noise canceling headphones, maybe different lighting, flexible seating, maybe even remote work options if possible. Clear communication about expectations is also key. Manageable workloads, direct feedback styles often work better.
Playing to strengths too, right? Like deep focus.
For sure, finding roles that leverage those strengths and maybe developing strategies like scripts for trickier social interactions at work. A supportive company culture makes a huge difference, obviously.
Even small things help, like breaks or a routine after work.
Definitely. Regular sensory breaks during the day. And having a deliberate decompression routine after work to shift gears and release stress.
Okay, finally, the book wraps up with this idea of turning experiences into empowerment. What does that mean?
It's about reframing things, seeing challenges not just as struggles, but as experiences that build resilience, self awareness, understanding of your needs.
Finding strength in the journey.
Exactly. And recognizing that self advocacy itself, speaking up for your needs, is empowering, reclaiming control.
Does it talk about wider advocacy too?
It does. Sharing your experiences can not only empower you, but also help others and raise awareness. But it stresses that advocacy doesn't have to be huge public acts. Small moments of sharing or educating matter too.
Embracing the strengths that come from having navigated the world differently.
Precisely.
So, wrapping this up, the core message seems to be that autistic self-care is deeply personal. It's an ongoing journey.
Absolutely. Understanding your unique wiring, honoring your needs, and actively shaping your world to support you.
And hopefully, this discussion, drawing on Reynolds' book, gives you, our listeners, some starting points, things to explore and experiment with for yourself.
Yeah, view it as a toolkit, not a rigid set of rules.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. If you really lean into this idea of bending the world to fit you, what unexpected strengths or maybe just deeper well-being might you uncover? Something beyond just coping, you know?
That's a great question to ponder. What potential gets unlocked when you stop fighting your own nature?
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.